Welcome into a brand new episode of BVM Sports Chalk Talk. You know the two other guys on your screen, Scott Procter and Matt Morris. I am BVM Sports Director Mike Cianciolo, and we are going to kick off this episode knowing that the NFL regular season is inching closer to kickoff, and we will start with some AFC divisional previews and dive right into the AFC West. I don't think there is anyone out there that doesn't believe that the Chiefs will take the division. With that being said, though, which team, guys, pose the biggest threat to Kansas City's crown in the West?
You said it, Mike, and glad to have you here on camera officially with us for BVM Sports Chalk Talk. But listen, you said it. I expect an AFC West crown to be a precursor for a Super Bowl title for the Chiefs this season, with the league's best player in Patrick Mahomes, the league's best tight end in Travis Kelce, the league's fastest player in Tyreek Hill, and a much improved offensive line. So, as far as a challenger in that division, I love Justin Herbert and think he's already a star quarterback in this league, but first-year head coaches typically struggle, and that's what Brandon Staley is in LA. Vic Fangio, on the other hand, is entering his third season as the Broncos head coach, as a defensive-minded guy in Denver, has an ultra-talented defense that has the opportunity to be a top five or so unit. This unit and team really as a whole was ravaged by injury last season, but Von Miller and Bradley Chubb might be the best rushing duo in the entire league. And that defensive backfield is scary as well. Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson make a spectacular safety duo. And they added Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby in free agency at corner, used their first-round pick on Alabama corner Patrick Surtain, who I was super high on. I thought he was arguably the best defensive player in this draft class. And he already looks every bit of a star. He already returned a pick six in the preseason. And offensively, there's no shortage of weapons. We already know this. But it'll be about Teddy Bridgewater playing winning football, and I believe he will. So the Broncos, in my opinion, will really surprise some people this year, and not obviously, give the Chiefs any legitimate run for their money out west, but be a legitimate team in the AFC and, finally, take that next step into probably a winning record under Fangio. But what do you think, Matt?
Well, Scott, I understand where you're going with that, and I don't disagree with a lot of stuff, especially on the defensive side. I mean, Vic Fangio is a great defensive mind, and those injuries really hurt last year.
Right.
But for the same sort of reasons that you're saying that the Denver Broncos defense will be better, I think the entire LA Chargers team is going to be better, and a big part of it is health. Obviously, Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, all key players for the Chargers had different injury issues last year, and Herbert still showed out last year getting, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Anthony Lynn was just not doing well as a coach. I think Brandon Staley is a great addition. He's a good defensive mind. He was great with the Rams in his 1 year as their defensive coordinator. And I think additions like Corey Linsley and Rashawn Slater only just add to that offensive line. And I think when you look at it, the overall weapons and star power, when you compare to the Denver Broncos, if both teams are fully healthy and able to go at it, I'm going with the Chargers. I think that they have way more potential, both offensively and defensively, to keep up with the Chiefs and make it a game. Obviously, I don't think that the Chiefs have any true, rival in that division as of right now. But I expect the Chargers to build off of the success that their young quarterback had last year and continue to use that talent that they have as long as they can, stay healthy.
It's pretty crazy that Justin Herbert was able to have the season he was last year as a rookie with such a horrid offensive line. You mentioned it, bringing in Corey Linsley from the Packers, adding Rashawn Slater in the draft at that left tackle spot is going to be huge. If he's any more protected, which he should be, than he was last season, you'd only expect Herbert to improve. And I think it's kind of funny that the AFC West team that actually beat, the Chiefs last season and the Raiders, neither of us picked them. I think that's kind of telling, and I'm not super surprised on my end. I've actually been on this show talking about, my issues with John Gruden, Mike Mayock, and what they've done specifically with that offensive line. But I think this division will be more competitive than people think, but I think it'll be more due to the Broncos and, to your point, the Chargers.
It'll be exciting, and I like Derek Carr, and I like what he did last year, and I think the defense was improved upon with the Raiders, but I'm never going to pick a team that completely dismantled one of the best offensive lines in the league just for, I guess laughs. I don't even really understand the thought process behind it. So
yeah,
it's definitely a 3-team race, and I don't know if the Raiders are one of those teams.
And the Raiders obviously have the benefit of being able to bet on themselves playing in Las Vegas now. So
they're the only ones.
Right? Fantasy football enthusiasts have until Thursday night, September 9th, to draft before the season officially kicks off with Thursday Night Football. Which AFC West player do you guys find the most intriguing in this division when it comes to fantasy leagues? Obviously, we know Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill with the Chiefs, but who else out there should guys be looking at past the first round?
Well, this is probably a household name, so I don't know how out of the box it is, but he is coming off of a somewhat down year, especially because of injury. It's Austin Eckler. I mean, we just talked about the improvements to that offensive line with Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley, and obviously they still have guys like Brian Bulaga. But in 2019, Eckler had over 1,500 all-purpose yards and 11 touchdowns, and a part of that was 92 passes for 993 yards and 8 touchdowns. In just 10 games, he still kind of was on the right track as far as what he could have done last year before injury obviously cut his season 8 games short. I mean, since 2017, he's ranked 4th in the NFL in total receiving yards, and he's tied for first over that time span with 16 receiving touchdowns. It has to be Eckler. And with a young quarterback, it's always great to have a security and safety blanket like an Eckler that you can just dump the ball off to, and he can get a crazy amount of yards after catch. So I got to go with Austin Eckler. I think he's going to have a bounce back season after, missing 8 games last year.
I love that pick, man. I think Eckler is a dog. I'm going to mention that word a few times during this episode, I feel like. But, I mean, he essentially is the reason that Melvin Gordon was ushered out of L.A. with the Chargers. And in terms of fantasy, after, your typical top guys, McCaffrey, Zeke, Dalvin, Saquon Barkley, Eckler really has to be right there in that 5 to 6 RB range. But I'm going to go a different direction. I mentioned at the top there, the Broncos' offensive weapons, which obviously include Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, with 2 solid running backs back there. But Courtland Sutton is my favorite of the group. He missed almost the entirety of last season with an injury, playing only 30 snaps, but he was a dog in 2019. He posted 1,100 yards on 72 catches. He's back healthy this season. He scored a touchdown in the preseason finale on Saturday, and clearly has some early rapport with Teddy Bridgewater, which is obviously super crucial. So grab Courtland Sutton for your fantasy teams if able. He should be around in the later rounds for a nice flyer.
I definitely like that pick as well, Scott. I mean, you saw what Teddy was able to do with his wide receivers out in Carolina, and I think that receiving core is fairly similar. I mean, obviously Sutton is just a consistent guy. Once again, it's always about health.
Absolutely.
And it never hurts to actually have a decent quarterback thrown to you, and the Broncos at least have a serviceable one in Teddy Two Gloves. Well, that will conclude our preview of the West, but stay tuned for more Chalk Talk as we continue our look at the other AFC divisions ahead of Week 1. For Scott Procter and Matt Morris, I'm Mike Cianciolo. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with the BVM Sports Bunch. Catch you next time.